everyone, thank you for joining my presentation. My name is Danny Searick and this is my applied assignment final. A little bit about what I will be going over in my presentation is my pre-work. So what topic did I choose, why, and what previous knowledge do I know about my topic, the research that I conducted, and any new learning or connections or questions that I have. So starting off with my pre-work, just a little backstory. I did originally was going to choose a different subject, but after the feedback on my pre-work assignment, I decided to take just a little bit of a turn. So here we go. So for my pre-work, I still chose the topic individuals with disabilities, and I chose this topic because I believe that by exploring challenges such as accessibility, limitations, discrimination, and social stigmas, we can bring attention to the gaps that still exist in achieving true inclusivity. The aspects of inclusion I will be focusing on is education, community engagement, and the employment field. So here, the interview, I was originally going to interview my mom, but I felt like I would get more information out of interviewing my partner, Sam. I did choose to interview him because he has level 1 autism spectrum disorder, also referred to as high functioning autism spectrum disorder. So some previous knowledge I did know about this is that social communication can differ from somebody with ASD, and things like sarcasm, tone shifts, or crowded group convos can become overwhelming and confusing. I also knew that disabilities can affect a person's mobility, cognition, sensory perception, or emotional regulation, and this can be visible or even invisible. So the course materials I chose to back up my knowledge was Module 1's People with Invisible Disabilities Fight for Understanding. I used this article to build awareness around the concept that not all disabilities are physically noticeable, and this was important for my assignment because it emphasized the need for empathy, patience, and inclusivity in early childhood environments. I also chose Module 3's Undergraduate Students' Attitudes Toward Individuals with Disabilities, Integrating a Psychology Disability Curriculum and Service Learning article. And this study basically helped me reflect on my own biases and assumptions. It showed how education and direct experience can significantly improve attitudes towards individuals with disabilities. And I used it in my assignment to support the idea that intentional teaching must include ongoing professional development and requires reflection on inclusion. So some of the research I conducted on my own was the stigmatizing effects of visible versus invisible disabilities. Again, I use this article to deepen my understanding of how stigma manifests differently depending on whether a disability is visible or invisible. And I chose it because it helped me reflect on how unconscious biases can affect how I interact with children, families, colleagues, and it reinforced my commitment to promoting equity and psychological safety in the classroom. Another article I found was the Head Start Center for Inclusion Invisible Support. This resource equips early childhood educators with practical strategies to foster participation and success of children with hidden disabilities by embedding support seamlessly into the everyday activities. Moving on to evidence. So I emailed my partner asking to set up an interview with him to discuss what it's like on his everyday today dealing with the autism spectrum disorder. So as you can see on the left side, I have the disability interview questions, and there's 9 questions. And I won't go through every single one, but I will give you time to look and read. Okay, From those questions, here are some notes that I got. I will go over some of the things that he said that I felt like was really important. Not that everything is important. So one of the things that he said was that his brain works differently. It processes things in a different way that's not always like everyone else's, but that doesn't mean that that's necessarily the wrong way. It just means that it's something different. And then another important key that I wanted to talk about was that he said in note number 4, stop making everything one size fits all. Give people options to have quiet rooms, to have breaks, to have written instructions instead of just verbal. You need to listen to the people with the disability and what they say that works for them, because everything that works for them may not work for everyone else. As I've also learned throughout the course, having a routine is a big one with people who have disabilities. They like to know what's coming. They don't like loud spaces. They don't, or, things like that. And yeah, so I'll also give you a little bit more time just to read through some of these notes. Okay, moving on to some new learning. New learning that I found on inclusion. Throughout my interview with my partner and my research, I learned that true inclusion isn't just about being physically present. It's about feeling safe, seen, and supported. Okay, Sam talked a lot about environments that feel overwhelming and how having things like quiet rooms or flexible communication options make a huge difference. Moving on to equity. Equity showed up in every part of this process. So Sam emphasized how his brain works differently, not wrongly, and how frustrating it is when systems treat everyone the same and expect it to work. I learned that we need to create spaces that honor neurodiversity, and it's about giving people the tools and space they need to thrive. And access, this topic made me realize that access isn't always about ramps and elevators and parking spots. Although these do matter as well, for someone with ASD, access could mean things like consistent routines, reduced noise, or even just the option to text instead of talk. Access means thinking beyond just the physical. It's sensory, it's emotional, and cognitive. And some of my continued inquiry, one thing that I really want to know now is, what role does cultural background play in how disability is understood or even diagnosed? So after diving into this topic, I really realized I wanted to learn more about how disability now intersects with other identities, such as like race, gender, socioeconomic status, and culture. I've noticed that most of the stories and data I've come across tend to center white male perspectives, and that's kind of a gap that I would like to explore further. Plans that I want to learn more, I plan to explore books and articles by disabled activists of color. I can tune into podcasts and look for documentaries that highlight diverse disabled voices. And lastly, I can keep challenging what I think I know and talk about people with different perspectives than my own. So my question for you is, how do you define true inclusion now that you've taken this course? Thank you for visiting and have a good one.